Erik Horne here with the Shedeur Sanders beat once again for Andscape. Clinton Yates, Jean-Jacques Taylor, president of JJT Media Group, Jason Reid, and Bill Rhoden, and we are talking about the final preseason weekend. We had some interesting developments with the Sanders brothers. We're also going to get into Shiloh Sanders today, which we haven't had a chance to talk about a lot over the past few weeks because we've been so Shedeur heavy. But let's start with Shedeur. Cleveland Browns played their final preseason game. A lot of discussion online afterwards about the quarterback race. Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. We even got a little I said Snoop Menace, the receiver. No, Snoop Huntley at the end of the game for Cleveland. But let's just start here, guys. Has Shedeur Sanders had a fair shake in the Cleveland Browns quarterback races? Last game, he struggled. Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco played well, but the discussion has kind of shifted to, has he actually gotten a fair chance to be a part of this race? Who wants to get us started on this hot button topic on a Sunday morning?
Well, absolutely, he's had a fair shake because he's had opportunity. I mean, that's all you ever asked for. Has he taken snaps in the game? I mean, you can never forget that on this particular team, he's a fifth-round pick who's fourth on the depth chart. You just get what you get. And whatever opportunity you get to play is whatever opportunity you get to play, just like every other fringe guy on the roster spot. So, yeah, he's had opportunity. And he took advantage of the first one, and he didn't play so well yesterday.
Yeah, it's this is such an interesting topic. Yeah, I agree with JJT. I mean, remember again, just like everything else we write about this guy, when he started off, he got his first start against the Panthers. I mean, man, we were like, he had a great performance. It was a great story. And remember, maybe I'm guilty of this. Great story first, the story first. And so the story was great. He did well, and then lit him up. And there was the Nike commercial shortly thereafter, and then I was all hyped up for Philadelphia and got hurt, and that was a problem, because I think that had he been able to build on that, maybe a lot of this stuff would have gone away, but he didn't. And frankly, man, we all saw the game. We were texting all throughout the game. It was kind of disaster. It was a disaster. And a lot of the stuff we saw Colorado came back, the holding the ball, just trying to scramble. And you can't do that. There's a lot of stuff both he and Shiloh did. We'll get there later. A lot of stuff they did right back then on and off the field, you can't get away with here. You just cannot do it, whether it's going 101 miles an hour in a 60-mile zone and expecting people to kind of like turn you, like is okay to holding the ball and trying to scramble. You can't do it. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I think that he had his opportunity. And by the way, man, Dylan Gabriel can play. I think I think in all this conversation, maybe we kind of relegate him to like a straight man or a stiff. Dylan Gabriel can play. So my answer to your question is yes, he's got a fair shot. Do I think we've seen the last of him? No, but I think that I think he got a fair shot.
I'll go next, and I'll say that, not to get too existential with it, but I would argue that arguably nobody on that Browns QB room has gotten a fair shot because of the way they set things up. We've talked a little bit about the idea of four quarterbacks on a roster, an idea that Harry Douglas called a hostage situation that we've joked about on this show before, and that I don't know that any of us really know what the Browns are looking for out of a backup either way, because the coaches, Jay Reid, as you know, haven't said much. And so what a fair shot is kind of one thing in general, to JJT's point about, yes, you've gotten the opportunity to play, but at the same time, there's been no setup for any of these guys that's been an indication, in my opinion, that they're going to be in a certain path, whether it be, Pickett, who they wanted, who's been hurt, who apparently nobody knows anything about, whether it be Dylan, who again, kind of got his wings clipped the day he got drafted when Shador got picked. So I just feel that it was arguably the worst case kind of scenario for Shedeur to get into, a circumstance in which He was in a room that was stacked full of people, a town that is desperate for a quarterback in a way that pretty much no town in America is that has an NFL football team. And on top of that, didn't really get the reps that you thought, or one might have thought he genuinely needed in order to acclimate himself to the game. So the opportunities were there, yes. But I don't know that fair is the word I would use, honestly, for any quarterback in that scenario, because it's just too complicated and too hard to set yourself aside, stand out in a group like that with so many people there.
But we also talk about the NFL and professional sports where fair is not really even an issue. It's what it is.
I don't disagree, and that's kind of what I'm saying. So, the question is, look, if I'm a member of Shedor's family or camp or whatever, I'm not that worried about him potentially being on a practice squad and getting picked up by somebody else or even getting traded, because at least you'll have probably a better idea of where you stand. The Browns seem confused out the gate, and just in fairness to themselves, I guess is kind of what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like they've done right by their decision-making process, because their GM and their owner, literally in public, were not on the same page about the quarterbacks they wanted on their team. And that to me was the initial sign to me that this probably isn't going to go well for anybody involved. And it honestly, it hasn't. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough.
And that's why a lot of times I think Jay Reid can talk about it. Organizations make quarterbacks. It depends on where you get drafted, and that determines so much of your future. And even if we slip off and talk about Anthony Richardson, everything we heard when Anthony Richardson got drafted was, he's got to have time to develop. He's got to work on this, and we're going to sit him for a year or two. And he started the first month of the season. So you wreck him, and then you say, well, that's your fault you didn't develop. And so it matters who drafts you.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I say quarterback's the worst coach position in the league. I mean, we've been over this a million times, but if Shedeur Sanders got the chance that Anthony Richardson got, which is more than most, multiple seasons, multiple injuries, multiple guys coming in to try to replace you, and they still stuck with him, then I would be, yes, that would be more than fair, in my opinion. I would say Anthony Richardson got a longer leash than pretty much any quarterback I can think of who had that few starts in college in the last 5 years or so in the NFL.
Now, Jason, doesn't the Anthony Richardson point kind of play into what you talked about with the talent thing with Cam and Cam Newton and some of these guys who come in with this skill set? They're liable to get more of an opportunity to play because they have this incredible tool, all these incredible tools in their belt.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot to digest. You guys have all made great points, but I go back to what JJT opened with. He's a 5th-round pick. Anthony Richardson was a 4th overall pick. I mean, when you're talking about the leash a guy's going to get, so to speak, you have Anthony Richardson, and Clinton's right. He didn't make many starts in college. That was one of the things about it. But when they pick you 4th overall, they're going to give you many more opportunities to fail or succeed, because if ultimately you fail, then that could cost the general manager's job, the head coach's job, other people in scouting and development. So that's the Anthony Richardson comparison, you really can't make it because, like JJT pointed out, Shedeur Sanders is a 5th-round pick who was 4th on the depth chart going into the preseason. Now, I look at this, and we've had this discussion in texts among the 4 of us, and I get where Clinton's coming from. I understand what he's saying. I just, I really lean more toward JJT and Bill from this standpoint. He had one good game, his first preseason start. Then he got hurt. He did enter 4th on the depth chart. He doesn't play in one game, and then because he got hurt, and then he comes back, and he did not play well yesterday. I mean, there's just no way around that. And even though he did play well in that opening game, if we go back to something Bill said about holding the ball and trying to scramble, too long, like in that Panthers game, he had one of those scrambles where he got away with it.
Yeah.
Right.
In that Panthers game, he threw a ball that could have been picked off. So look, give him his due. He did play well, but playing well and playing poorly is a very fine line. Those two plays go differently. Then everybody's talking about, okay, well, that it didn't work out. I feel like we went into this situation the outlook was Flacco was going to be the starter because they know what they got from him. Yeah, he's 500 years old, but he took him to the playoffs the last time he was there. Dylan Gabriel is a third-round draft pick. You kind of want third-round draft picks to make your team. As JJT pointed out, Kenny Pickett, when we first started talking about this, my thing with Kenny Pickett was, who knows, maybe if he's healthy, but he wasn't healthy. So then you have Shedeur. They evaluated him to be fourth string based on the practices coming into the preseason. I feel like it was a tough situation. Clinton's absolutely right. It was a tough situation for this guy going in. But, fairness, where he ranked in this whole thing, if you ask me if he's just a fifth round pick without the name Shedeur Sanders, I'd say he got more than a fair shot.
Yeah.
But his name is Shedeur Sanders. So
that's a good point. I think to that question though, Jay Reid, I wonder, and this, if I were working the beat in Cleveland and I had any sort of downtime, not even downtime, but real time with the head coach, the GM, or the owner, I would ask the basic question: why did you pick him? Who in this organization thought that there was going to be a path towards any success for Shador? And please explain to me that path of logic so that you can evaluate this relative fairness. That's what I keep getting back to. I'm like, what is this person here for if there was never any ascension route available? And that's where I think there is a legitimate question of fairness, because I'm not saying he was set up to fail. And I don't know that I believe some of these conspiracy theories that a lot of people are floating out about the NFL colluding to keep him down on draft boards. But within the organization, I don't see anybody who's come out and said, here's what I think this kid can do well. That never happened. And that to me is weird in the larger context,
So I did put that question. I did speak with Andrew Berry yesterday. I was in Cleveland. And I did speak with him. And I asked him, because I said, why did you draft him? And the question, he answered the question, well, because we took Gillen David, and he said, I was stunned. I was stunned that he was still there. After we took Dylan Gabriel, he said, I was stunned that he was still there. I think the kid is talented. I think he can play. And I was really surprised that he was there. The question I did not ask him, and I kind of kicked myself because I was trying to get it, was, why do you think he was still there? Because that's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question that is at the root of all this stuff. But there's one thing, and Clint, you raised this the first time this brought it up, and I kind of dismissed it, but I think you may be right. He brings value to that franchise. I'm looking at all the jerseys and every single pro shop. And if you go online and you click the Cleveland Browns, I think, shop or something, he's there. It's almost like he's the face of that. Gabriel does not have a jersey in the pro shop, and there are people who are outside who are wearing Shedeur Sanders, and there are a couple of profane jerseys I sent you guys. So there's a whole marketing thing, and they see a value in that. And frankly, people care. They care about him in a way I don't know if Cleveland fans have cared really about anybody.
That's a great point, Bill.
So you see what I'm saying? So we're talking about, as we always have with the whole Dion, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about, can he play, and marketing. And to a pro franchise, man, this guy, people are buying the jersey, they care about it, they're passionate about it. So that's why it makes it so come. But I did ask him, I said, man, why'd you pick this guy? And they think he can play, but it did not answer your question about, well, and in fact, he ended by saying, we said, we're going to take him and then we'll figure it out. So that's what we're seeing now. They're trying to figure it out.
It's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm a Browns fan and I end up seeing this guy on some other team, let's just say he turns up as the backup in, I don't know, or the third string guy in, let's just say, Pittsburgh, in a random place that happens to be on people's minds. You know what I'm saying? Like, then I'm pissed, because it's, you're jerking around the fan base, never mind the people in that position room. And that's just kind of Browns football at this point.
Right.
I think, when we always talk about why is he still there, we're having a full-fledged conversation about a fourth-string quarterback.
Right.
That's why he was still there, because if you're not going to take him in the first round where he's basically coming in to start, then it's, do we want all the stuff that accompanies him? And some people do and some people don't. And at a certain point, he becomes valued just because he has talent and he's so low. But that's why he dropped, man, because of all of this.
Huh.
Which,
Well, yeah.
Once he left the first round.
There's a big difference between the first round and the fifth round, though. And I just like if I keep coming back to the fact that I wish this wasn't the damn Browns. You know what I'm saying? That's not super personal outside of the fact that it is, in the sense of I don't have a problem with that franchise per se, but the track record is not there. If you'd said, what's a team that's probably going to bungle a quarterback situation with too many rookies in the room that can't figure out who's the most talented, I would have immediately named the Cleveland Browns. You know, and now there's the real roster question that I was asking you guys yesterday, which is, what are they going to do? Like four dudes on the roster? Are we serious? That's not, that's not realistic. And I think Kenny Pickett might end up being the odd man out if he's still hurt. Bill, I don't know what you learned in Cleveland about his health situation, but it just kind of feels like they thought this was going to work itself out, and it hasn't, and that they're going to end up paying the price for that with potentially a pick or two.
And one of the things Barry said is that, I mean, a hint of that is that they're willing to use four. I think last year, Jerry, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think they grounded through four quarterbacks, so I think they're going to keep four. And if you look at a guy like Barry, who's an investment, he's an economics guy, and they look at what we look at stories, right? We look at stories. He looks at value proposition, right? So Shedeur is a value. They've got two talented young quarterbacks who they're going to fight. They're going to get rid of one of them, but it's like trade bait, so they're going to kind of let them develop. And frankly, I don't know what you guys thought yesterday. I'm looking at Gabriel, and it seems like if there was going to be somebody you throw into the fire if Flacco got hurt, he seemed to be game ready. He seemed to be game ready, not flashy, but very efficient, getting the ball out. He seems to know what the hell he's doing. Now, I think maybe you could argue creatively, maybe Shedeur may be more creative, but if you're talking about the here and now, he's here now. And the last thing I'll say too, which is, I don't want to mention the guy in the White House, but I was talking to some fans, and you guys see in the text, there are people who will argue Shedeur. It does not matter what you say and what you see. I mean, it does not matter. I was having this conversation. I saw it. So as I was leaving the stadium, I saw these two women, and they both had the, jerseys, Shedeur and all that. So finally, I'm not that much into the man in the street thing anymore. But I said, I had to ask them. I said, well, tell me. And they came from Atlanta. Wow. A mother and daughter came to Atlanta to see Shedeur. And they were like talking about he got a bad shot. And we saw him, we used to see him. We grew up with him, because I guess Dion had a TV show or something. So we saw him grow up. We're like his uncle. We're like he's our cousin and all that. I said, yeah, but didn't you see him? I said, yeah, they didn't give him a good shot. He was playing with four-string people. So it doesn't really matter. Like, what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter what you see. It's like, well, it wasn't him. It wasn't his fault because he was playing with third and fourth string people and all that. So I just said, man, what a quandary. It's a great story, but what a quandary.
I think the thing that Clinton brought up makes sense is that, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, if he had gone to a team that had an established starter, whatever team it would be, and he was firmly entrenched as a backup, whether it was second or third, we wouldn't have all this drama, because the reason it's like this in Cleveland is there's a chance he could play because nobody believes in Flacco.
Right.
But if he's at a place with an established starter who's got the $50 million contract, we aren't talking like this because we go, well, that guy's the starter and this guy's the backup or the future, but he's not the right now.
This is where Bill's Rams come in. He was talking about the Rams. See? I remember I was out at training camp and I'm watching Stetson Bennett run around and I'm thinking, man, that could have been Shedeur. That really legitimately came to my mind when I was out there on the practice field. But yeah, situation is huge here. And it's not a good one. Like, I mean, I guess more largely, Bill, I'll ask you think the Browns are going to be any good this year?
I think so. I mean, well, here, we're in August, right? And I think so. I mean, Flacco, and they got their defense is going to be really good. The Browns are going to have a really good defense. So they don't need Flacco to be tremendous. they just need him to be competent and stay healthy. So I think they could. And then, I mean, who knows about Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers? I mean, who knows?
Right.
The only thing we know for sure is that Cincinnati with Joe Burrow is going to score a lot of points, and Lamar with Baltimore. So I think that Cleveland has a shot. But I think what we all agree upon is at some point, it could be week 3 or maybe 4 or 5, we're going to see a backup. We're going to see either Gabriel, maybe Shedeur. I don't know, but if they're going to be good, I think so. I mean, but who knows, man? We've been through all this. I don't know if I'm thinking so or hoping so.
Hey, man, Vegas has got their over and under at 5.5 wins. And Vegas
5.5? Are we
and
serious?
Vegas is pretty good at this.
That's not a good team.
That's not a good team.
Jay Reid,
everybody gets fired.
Jay Reid, let me ask you this question though: is 17 game seasons now? I think about this a lot because, as I mentioned before, living in Los Angeles, I see the Rams and I look at Matt Stafford. I'm like, that dude ain't playing 17 games. And then I look around the league and I think, who is playing 17 whole games as a starter in this league? Like we're at the point now where the season is so long that every team is going to need a reasonable backup. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just because the season is so daggone long, Jason. And that's something I'm wondering in terms of what you see around the league. Who is considered probably a good backup? Like what is that metric if you are not in the starting range?
I mean, you look at Kansas City, Gardner Minshew. I mean, he's been a starting quarterback. Obviously you don't want to go from Patrick Mahomes to Gardner Minshew. I mean, that's not something anybody wants to do. But you look and you say, okay, that's a situation where maybe you can muddle through a couple of games,
right?
Not at the same level, obviously. Like you said, nobody wants to go to a backup quarterback, but in a 17-game schedule, even with the rules to protect quarterbacks the way it is now, the likelihood is, guys get hurt. And Joe Flacco's how is he 44 now?
40
now. I knew it was but he's 40 years old. And
he's not 200.
Yeah, he's not 200. But 40 for a starting quarterback, as we all know, is way, way up there. So, when you look around the league, Clinton, if a guy like Shador could get in there and get reps and play well during the season, then yeah, I mean the Browns might have a chip to play there. But he's got to jump over. He's got to jump over. It appears. I mean, we don't know. It's not set yet to 53, but it appears he's got to jump over Dylan Gabriel. So how can he get in there to then get on the radar? Like a Trey Lance did. When he had a couple of opportunities, you say, okay, well, there you go.
It won't be hard to. It won't be hard to jump over Dylan Gabriel since you said he's like 4'7".
Well, he grew last week. He grew this past week. He's now 5'10".
Right.
Okay.
Oh, that's terrible.
And I'm telling you about this, how the people who love Shador, and we've seen it through the text. It's like there's nothing you could do to shake their confidence. So I was saying to these two women, I'm trying to, without, having them get to the point where they start cursing me, call me Uncle Tom or something, and say, listen, they said, why don't you think I said, well, he's a 22-year-old kid who's trying to be. Then they said, well, look at what's the name playing like a star? Who's a kid at Tennessee?
Cam Ward.
Yeah, they said, what about how's Cam Ward playing? Is he playing like a first rounder? I mean, they were, what do you say?
Ammo is what you're saying.
Yeah. I was like, what you just said, but I was just struck by it's almost like a religious kind of fervor.
And Bill, the other part of it too is it's about the culture now and this time we're in. Like many Black folk look at this situation as that they look at it, he got screwed over.
Right.
And they look at this time we're living in and they go back to the Kaepernick thing from years ago. So all these things are fueling this, where it's really, I mean, for people who look like us, for a lot of people who look like us, I don't even know how much the football part actually comes into it. I think a lot of it is he's getting screwed like Kaepernick got screwed. Like you go down the line, throughout our history and experience in this country. And I think that's what's fueling most of this now.
Right. No, I think you're 100% right, which is, unique that that's what I thought about Kaepernick. They kind of treat him like a Kaepernick kind of thing, or like, Ali or something. I said, well, Ali did knock people out. He did win championships.
Yeah.
And Kaepernick, for that matter, played in the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
But I get it. There's this sense of being wrong, and I think we have not really addressed that. I mean, I'm not sure where each of us on this thing are. Do we think we got screwed? Do you think that there was a conspiracy? Oh, and I know what to say. The problem is the NFL has lost credibility because we just can't. You just can't dismiss out of hand. Oh no, because it was proven that they colluded when it came to guarantee contracts for quarterbacks, and I don't know if it's proven, but on the face of it, they colluded with Kaepernick.
Well, the league. I mean, just so we make the legal part of it, the arbitrator ruled that they did discuss,
Right.
the salaries, but that the arbitrator ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove they
Right.
colluded. Yeah.
Right.
Sure. That's the
Right.
legalese. But we also live in a world where Jerry Jones is actively talking about he doesn't really care about winning football games. He's interested in being an entertainment product. That element to me is as much a credibility issue writ large as is anything having to do with Colin Kaepernick, to be quite honest. You know what I'm saying? Because there are plenty owners that are in the same boat as he is. They're just not willing to say it out loud. So
you're right. So that's the problem, when we get to the whole idea of Shedur's treatment. I don't know if we could just. I think each of us. I mean, we could talk about Kaepernick and owners and guaranteed contracts, but when it gets to Shedeur, how are we feeling about that? Do we feel that he was screwed over? I mean, I think that's at the heart of what we're discussing today. Do we think, Clinton, JJT, Jay Reid, do we think that he got screwed over?
Yes. I mean, I mean, in the sense of like, it was, hell, Mel Kiper was going nuts about it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not one to say that Mel is somebody I'm going to dismiss out of hand. I mean, if honest draft guys had him higher on their board and he falls that far, you've got to think that. I mean, screwed kind of implies a certain level of intentionality that I think is difficult to lay on people, but somebody may or may not have made a mistake. That's it. Just quickly, I want to interject, by the by. Deion Sanders is still coaching the Colorado football team, and he's doing it and minding his business. And I just wanted to remind everybody that part of the equation has not been a problem on the pro end with his kids. I just want to bring that up for all the people who kept telling us about how Prime was going to be a problem when his kids got to the pros, this, that, and the third. It's not at all. That's not the case. I just wanted to bring that back up, Erik. You know what I'm saying? Because that is something that has been that has suddenly the chatter about that has gone away conveniently. But that's
what about? Are we going to talk about his oldest son? Is that? I know it's kind of not relevant to this conversation. I think it's only relevant because he's a Sanders, and he got thrown out of the game. But I mean, it's almost like we're piling on. So, well, hell, it was a terrible day for the Sanders brothers, but. I don't know.
I think Taylor was always destined for a Tampa Bay practice squad, so I don't think that really affects him one way or the
other. Yeah, and that's probably what the conversation's worth, right?
Right. You probably told him you're gonna be on the practice squad. Why don't you get your hands off me? You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, he's out here throwing fists. So
now he was blocking him aggressively.
Yeah.
The Shiloh thing to me was like, and Jay Reid made me think about it a little bit more and go back and watch the video over and over again. Those refs were doing some real like Key and Peele waiting for that last pump kind of thing. Like they had the hand, like as they were tussling, they had the hand like this, like ready. They were like, and then as soon, it was like almost even as he was going for the punch, whoop, like the flags came, and I was like, "Wait a minute, hold on, y'all! Like really, like because I saw the guy's hand here as they were pushing. We probably given it too much time already, but
well, the thing that's relevant is one of the things there was a flag in the Cleveland game. They're really focusing now on unsportsmanship like conduct, and what they threw a flag for in the Cleveland game was but so it seems like. That's going to be what do they call it?
Point of emphasis.
Point of emphasis. Yeah. That's going to be a point of emphasis. So good luck with that.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough whether or not Shedeur is going to be on the squad. You know, they say they're going to carry 4 quarterbacks. We'll find out this week when the 53 man drops. But thanks again for the conversation, guys. Do we have any closing thoughts? Anything else to say?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly that, you know, it's going to be real awkward if Shador is not on that team.
Right.
Half the damn crowd is wearing the Shedeur Sanders jerseys, and Joe Flacco goes down and Dylan Gabriel throws a pick six. That is the worst case scenario for the Browns, and they better hope that fan base doesn't light that stadium on fire for getting rid of somebody that people actually liked. And that is not necessarily football related, but I'm kind of rooting for that to happen now, just to see how that goes. Not gonna lie.
And then the camera pans to Deshaun Watson wearing a hoodie on the sideline, just chewing a piece of
right. Oh man, what a mess!
He's still on the team, guys.
And he's coming back at some point, which means another decision will have to be made because that's 5 quarterbacks.
Right. Well, he'll probably go on what, JR? He'll probably go on injury reserve, maybe for the season, right?
Well, no, at some point he's going to come back. I mean, it could be this year. I mean, look, the situation with him is everybody knows they're paying him all this money, and you know he's not in their long-term plans, obviously. But like JJT said, when he does come back, whatever that is, it's going to force another decision.
Right. I wonder if I was thinking about this the other day. I wonder if he talks to Shedeur. You know, I don't know if they've quarantined him. You know, but I wonder if he's talking to Shedeur.
I don't know. You know, his personal quarterback coach is Quincy Avery. Quincy has gotten into it with the Sanders family over Twitter. So I don't know if
that's always productive.
Yeah, I don't know how close that relationship is. Let me just put it that way.
Right. Oh, that's right, because Deshaun was trained with Quincy.
Yeah. And they're real tight. So
okay.
I mean, he really got into it with Deion Sanders Jr. So I don't know.
Yeah. Stay tuned, brothers. Yeah.
All right, y'all.
All right, fellas. Thanks for joining us once again, everybody. Check out Andscape.com. Make sure you check out Bill's column, which is going to be dropping either today or Monday. We'll figure it out, right, Bill?
Don't box me in, Eric.
I'm not going to box you in. We'll be dropping this month, everybody. But stick with us, and we will see y'all again soon. Thanks a lot.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
I appreciate
it. Take care.
All right, guys.
All right.